Nintendo continues to hit home runs in the PR department, Jeff. Nintendo just keep handing out dubs to the PR department each and every week. So as a summary for this, we've got this. So in the last week or two, we've got, the, of course, Smash Bros. Melee tournament getting shut down. Fuck. Protein powder in the shake getting caught my throat. The Smash Melee tournament getting shut down because it was using custom netcode so that the tournament could still happen while not being in person during COVID, and the custom netcode actually allowed the game to not be shit played online because Nintendo's netcode's terrible. And Nintendo was like, oh, what's that? You modified our game to be better so that you can have a tournament in the middle of a global pandemic for a game that's like fucking old as hell? Unacceptable. Take it down. And ever since then, there's been, I mean, it trended on Twitter for a few days of like the hashtag free melee, where people were really, and still grilling Nintendo daily on Twitch, or on, not Twitch, on Twitter and other social media for their recent blunders with just how aggressive they're being with their litigation. So that was one thing. Then they got into the Splatoon North American Open was supposed to happen. And after 30% of the teams that were entered into play in this Open had hashtag free melee names, Nintendo shut down the entire tournament and said, nope, Splatoon not going to happen anymore. And the reasoning? Unforeseen circumstances or unforeseen issues that they couldn't possibly overcome. That was the reasoning for shutting it down. Then the last one that really got people going. So Etika, who tragically took his own life here not too long ago, people were looking to raise money to give to charity specifically for mental health and suicide prevention. And they made, this group made custom Joy-Con covers for Etika themed Joy-Con covers. The problem was apparently is that Nintendo decided that parts of the design were infringing on their intellectual property, and so they sent a cease and desist letter for these custom Joy-Cons for the sale for this fundraiser, and they had to take them down. Then they had to alter the design to try and skirt around the parts that Nintendo were apparently not particularly happy with. Thankfully, the second design seemed to have passed Nintendo's rigorous standards, and now they went on sale and they successfully hit their goal and then some. They actually like far surpassed it. They raised roughly 10,000 Canadian dollars selling these custom covers, and they managed to make it happen. But Nintendo just can't seem to just hold back on any of this shit. Look, on one hand, I understand the concept of protecting your intellectual property. On the other hand, none of the shit that is in this list was in any way, shape, or form going to set a precedent whereby Nintendo could not chase after somebody else who was legitimately infringing upon their property in a much more heinous way in the future. None of this was going to open them up for not being able to do that legally. All of this shit is basically all of these things, all three of these, all it's doing is just making them look bad. There's like nobody's going to defend Nintendo for these three things. And I don't understand why Nintendo continues to feel like these kind of things are so are so worth being so aggressive about shutting down. I can't get it. You know, if I'm Nintendo and I see the Etika thing and I pay somebody to research it or go talk to the guys that are running this fundraiser, what is it about? Who is the person? Let me know more about Etika. Let me know more about the fundraising that you're doing. Let me know about these things. Okay. and sit them down and say, all right, guys, this is how I would have handled it. I said, okay, guys, unfortunately, yes, parts of this design do get too close to our stuff, and we need to change that. If you can change that, let's do that, and we will give a donation as well to the cause. We'll join in, but we just need you to do this because we have to protect. But it's not that. They just come in, they say, fuck you, take your shit down, and that's the show. Same with Melee. Pandemic is happening. People are trying to still have events and have a good time and get their mind off the fact that the world is literally a giant spiraling shithole. They just want to have a Melee tournament, bro. They have code that will allow them to do that. It in no way, shape, or form is being sold to anyone to do anything. It's just being used for this tournament to make the shit happen because Nintendo's netcode is still being done by a bunch of interns from 1986. Nintendo could have come in and supported it and did it and helped them get it to where Nintendo would have been comfortable with it. And instead, their only solution every single time is to shut the shit down. And Nintendo is by far the most aggressive about this shit. They're the most aggressive on YouTube. They're the most aggressive on Twitch. They're the most aggressive with all of these kind of situations here. And very few of the situations in which they get super involved and very litigious are actually worth chasing after. But they do it anyway. I just want Nintendo and other companies as well, in these instances, my hope would be that they while they absolutely are within their rights to protect their intellectual property, is to, just like everything else, I'm going to name the topic of this podcast context. Because the context for these things mean a lot here. You're talking about a fundraiser for a massive member of the Nintendo Online community in Etika, who tragically took his life. Now they're raising money in his name for the purposes of mental health and suicide prevention, which I don't need to remind people is a massive issue in Japan as well. And Nintendo could take that as an opportunity and turn it into something awesome, and instead, what do? They just come in and shit all over it in classic Nintendo style. I just be better, Nintendo. Like, these three things is just silly. You need to fucking hire some new PR guys. This shit's terrible. I know at the end of the day, fundamentally, this is not going to affect Nintendo at all. Zero. Nintendo people are going to, they hear about this till the cows come home. Nintendo could, like, do nearly anything, and people are still going to buy Nintendo shit. But that doesn't mean that you need to still burn goodwill for some of the most hardcore members of your community. I mean, you're talking about people that have been doing grassroots esports with your titles for over a decade. Because you won't personally get involved because you don't have no interest in esports, but they're doing it anyway. And despite the fact that you've put like 1,000 roadblocks in front of them at every step for all of these tournaments and shit over years and years and years, they still do it because they love your games and they love you. And it's like an abusive parent. It's like you want your parent to fucking love you, and you go there, and every time you see the parent, they get out the belt and they're like, "Bitch! Get back to your room! I didn't give you permission to be downstairs!" And then you go up in the room like, "I still love you!" Like, that's Nintendo and their fans right now. Like, these fucking hardcore fans. So it's just weird. I don't know. But I wish Nintendo would get, out of their fucking ass and do something better.